Did you hear the DJ Drama song, first of all?
Hmm.
With Benny, Fab. Who else was on there? I'm bugging. Off top. Benny, Fab,
Jones.
Jones. That's it. That's it.
Hmm.
What did you think about it?
It's like, okay, it was one of those things I wasn't overly impressed, but it's like, no, 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 you got to do that. Like
Yeah.
for everybody that's respectively involved, it's a good look for you to do that. I'm thinking about New York summertime too. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, no, 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 no. They're gonna ride to that. Like streets in New York is gonna be hot about that. It's like, oh, Fab, Jim, Benny,
Yeah.
like yeah, yeah, yeah. That
I
works
love the
for all of them.
fact
That works
that
for all parties involved. I would say so. Not like overly impressed, but it's a solid joint. And they all do their thing on there. They all bring what it is that they respectively bring to the table, to the game, to the table on the record. So no real qualms about it per se.
peace to everybody in the room. We appreciate y'all. Yeah, get them thumbs up. We got a lot to talk about today. We're gonna talk our hip hop shit today. But yeah, I love the fact that Benny has been brought into the fold of like these, I don't want to say these mainstream New York collabos, but they used to kind of leave Griselda out because those guys are in Buffalo, and it was like when we see these collaborations, it was mostly on their stuff as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to other people's stuff, and it's
Yeah.
cool to see that, and I hope it continues on. Um,
Well,
what's that?
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no, I hope it continues on. We got TJ in the building. Everybody's unblocked this episode. Went back and made those necessary changes. Um, So no, it's good to see everybody get into the fold, especially with New York hip hop. I know we did it. We were talking a little bit on a previous episode, and we were just talking about where New York hip hop is currently,
Mm-hmm.
and where it's going. And it's like, again, it's like you kind of got the older guard of New York hip hop. Then you got like the middle school, and you got what the younger cats are doing. We're gonna talk about Joey Badass and the record that he put out today too.
Mm-hmm.
Another Static Selector track. I
Mm-hmm.
think we're gonna get some really good things from that. But I think that when you think about New York hip hop, it's very diverse. It's about as diverse as hip hop is right now. Period. You know what I mean?
It is. There's a lot of sects of New York hip hop. That's why I was telling you. It's like, well, I don't think it's fair for us to really qualify it from down here in Atlanta, with there being even like the whole drill thing,
Yeah,
and then Griselda upstate, and I'm pretty. And then you have people like Sky Zoo who are
yeah.
still like holding down kind of like a classic New York sound. And then you have the influence of like what I would say is like the native tongues, even on something like Lupe and Kendrick's albums, you know?
Well, yeah, and
So it's
I was
like
gonna
even the
say
reach.
I was gonna take it to somebody who is from New York, from the Bronx, Mickey Fax, and his
Yeah.
approach, which is I mean, it's all over the place because he's a real diverse artist, but you could put him in that Lupe chamber, right?
I was about to say, well, he does
Um,
work with Lupe, so
yeah,
you know that fits perfectly into the vein of kind of what I'm speaking to. You know what I mean? I think we're saying the same thing.
yeah. We need to get Jar from Rap Roundtable on here and kind of talk about where New York hip hop is because I know they do a lot of dope interviews with hip hop artists at the Rap Roundtable and just kind
Mm-hmm.
of get some insight like from the ground and see what that looks like because from the outside looking in, it really doesn't have a sound anymore, which is fine.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing. I don't think there's anything wrong with it not having like a particular wave that you could ride. The point for me has always been quality music. You know what I mean? I stress that over and over again. So
I
long as a as
I
long as the
think
record's
Dipset
good.
got that whole ball rolling when it comes to branching out and not really being the quote unquote New York sound and kind of taking on other sounds,
They
specifically a
were
down south sound. And then I think that the ASAP mob just kind of knocked that door all the way down.
they did agility.
Yeah.
Dipset was the one that brought the agility to it. There's like, no, 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 no. We can get fly on them down south records. We can get gangsta on them West Coast records.
I
It's all
think
good.
both people benefited, but yeah, I forgot about the West Coast thing. The South benefited
Yeah.
from how diplomats opened up their doors. Like Crown Me was
What's
big
the
for Ti,
what's
and
the
and the Jewel Santana and Wayne mix that was
yeah.
big for Wayne.
What's the? I was actually thinking, what's the Schoolboy and Jones joint? I think Alchemist produced it.
Yeah. What's the
You
name of that
remember? Know what I'm
record?
talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Dipset was everywhere with it. They was like, no, 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 we get down with everybody.
Mm.
You know. So
Yeah. But yeah. So I do want to go to that Joey Badass record. Did you hear that?
I did. It was the
We're
first
talking
one I
about
listened to
three New
actually.
York artists today too, and all three of them are so different. Because I didn't even think about Cardi B being New York too, but yeah, that's New York
Technically, yeah.
too. What did you think about the Joey record?
I think you were more excited about it than I was. Just
Really?
truth. Yeah, I liked it, but I didn't like. I didn't love it. I'm not. I'm going to be honest with you. Like when you shared your excitement about it, you got me kind of excited because I don't know. Sometimes these days, I feel like you can be even more difficult than I can be, and
We
about
have our
something.
days.
Right. And so like when I've been equally excited as you have been about the Joey Badass, but it's like didn't lose me because I'm still super excited for the album and I
Yeah.
still think it's gonna be dope, but not as dope, you know?
Mm. What do you feel like it was lacking?
I don't know, maybe I need to hear it again.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's sometimes it's not you, it's me.
Maybe it's just not a record that you put out on its own without the rest of the body of work accompanying it.
I was kind of feeling that way.
Yeah.
I was kind of feeling like, some songs stand so much better within the framework of an album than standing, in these isolated situations. And that's how I felt about it. Because I still enjoyed the record. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anything negative about the song. It just didn't, I think you and I have some like sneaking album of the year type of suspicions for the Joey Badass, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, we do.
So this didn't hit that, I guess, underlying expectation that you and I have been talking about behind the scenes is really what I'm trying to express. That's
Joey
not to knock the
just
record. That's what I'm saying.
Joey just sounds so comfortable right now. Like
Now he does. Now that he does.
he
Yeah.
sounds like so comfortable in his skin, like like an MC in his prime. Like when you hear, really dope to great MCs at their best, and that's what he sounds like right now. Like nothing's forced. He's just having fun with it, and it's just coming out. And I
Well,
like the
isn't
combination with him and Static Selector. But I will say this though, and this might be some of what you're feeling. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but Static Selector can kind of be, I don't want to say one dimensional, but he could put himself in a box production wise. The diversity's not really there.
he can be a little no ID-ish. East
Ah,
Coast style.
what I'm looking for my notes. Hold on one second. Where in the heck are my notes?
You take
Oh,
all the time you
I know where
need.
it's at. I know where it's at. I'll get it in a second. But yeah.
Okay. What do you
So
think?
I said,
What
what's
say
with
you
the?
about that whole the very no ID-ish sometimes? It's like,
Yeah,
like sometimes, here's where it works is that Joey is he's remarkably actually insightful and conversational. I don't think he gets enough credit for that with his flow. When you're talking
yeah,
about him feeling comfortable, it's because he's insightful and observational when he's flowing.
yeah.
I think that's what you're speaking to when you're talking about his comfort level on the mic. And I think Static Select is classic hip hop dropbacks give him the space and the canvas to do those things.
Yeah.
But sometimes is what happens with Black Thought records is it's like, well, the record doesn't move the way that you sometimes want it to move because of that.
I think we're in a time where everybody's finding their guy, and I feel like
Yeah.
Joey has found his guy in Static Selector. And it's funny, you and I were talking about Finding Forever with Common, and I wish the album would have started off with the people, and I love that whole line where Common's like, I found the new Primo. Yeah, you
I
know how
mean,
we
isn't it
do.
the
We do
second
it for the
song though,
people.
Mike?
It is the second song, but I think
No,
it
I
should have
love Start
started.
the Show, man.
You
The
like start
show.
the show like that? I really don't love start the show like that.
Okay, so that's what I was just telling you when I went back and listened to it the other day.
Mm-hmm.
He's rapping on there. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? It's not that it's not the common happy-go-lucky emceeing sometimes that he does. It's where he's rapping to make a point, and it's like you have to understand that this is still Chicago's number one guy.
It is.
You know what I'm saying? And this is him in his glory in his moment. So he's starting off the album rapping like that. Ladies and gentlemen, it's COMMON. You know what I'm saying? Like he's like, yeah, I'm ready. You know what I'm saying?
Nah,
No,
he
I
was
like
on
that.
his, and I'm sure that that was the energy they was going for. Mad
And
Max
it's
to the
got Yay
super
on the
chat.
hook. You don't like Yay on the hook?
I do, I
Step
do.
out of the cold
It
to the
doesn't
top
sound as
of
much
the
like an
globe.
intro like the people does for me. Mad Max with the super chat says,
People
"My
special.
son Joey is a gem. Comment, he about to drop the best album of the year." He said, "I'm sorry." He said, "My son Joey is my generation's Common. He's about to drop the
Come on,
best
is he?
album of the year."
That what he
Is
is?
he
Is he
this
this
generation's
generation?
Common? That's
That's
interesting.
what
I've never heard that take.
I've never heard that take either. I was gonna ask you.
Well, yeah, I've never heard that.
Okay.
But yeah,
Me neither.
I do expect really big things with this Joey project again. He's found his guy, it's a Static Selector. I do agree with you. There is some no ID in the Static Selector pairing when you talk about doing a whole project. And I know a lot of people don't really say this, but and we kind of talked about this when we were talking about the Dreamer Believer. We were talking about 444 offline. When No ID does a whole album, there's a tendency for it to be consistent, but could get boring production wise. And so I think that I could see that possibly happen with Static. And I think Static's underrated. I think Static's dope.
Actually, when we got off the phone, I actually thought to myself, and listen to what I'm about to say, he may have done this to Common twice, actually. Because when I go back and I listen to Common, the guy who was Common Sense on Resurrection, what would you say is the bigger issue with Resurrection? Is it the beats or is it the rhymes?
That's definitely the beats.
Okay.
And no, man, we're not hating on Common. We're
Is
not
it,
hating on Common. We're just critiquing like we do everybody else. You know what? When it comes
we're
to
actually about
certain
to speak
people,
glowingly of Common momentarily.
yeah, when we speak of certain people, man, people in the culture act like certain folks are beyond critique. We even critique Nas, and this is a quote unquote Nas channel, allegedly.
Man, they, there was this list that got made of like 15 duds by your favorite rapper, and Nostradamus popped up, and I was like, yes, and it stands. Here we go.
I mean, it happens.
We're honest and fair about everything. We're actually critiquing No ID's production right now, actually.
Exactly. And and I think that let's just be perfectly honest, and I'm not trying to slight anybody, we're just being real. There's nobody that's gonna sit here and tell you No ID is a top 10 hip hop producer.
But here's what I was actually about to say.
But he's making full albums for top 10 talents. So how does that work out, right? Well, so who's going to be to blame?
No, you're absolutely right. He's working with top 10 talents, and he's not a top 10 producer. What would I tell you is that Common switched his whole style up to work with other producers when it really wasn't working with No ID, because although we revere and we revel Resurrection, and One Day It'll All Make Sense, the public wasn't. The critics weren't necessarily either. Both of those albums, when they came out, was like, oh, they're cool.
He was underrated. Why? More because of the production, as we see later, because when Dilla jumps in the fold, we get the light.
Well, that's what I mean. As soon as the switch up happens, well, the switch up is like water for chocolate. Well, who's producing like water for chocolate? Well, it's...
And then the record you were talking about the other day, 199. That's high tech.
That's high tech.
I mean, it is what it is, man.
Right.
And the reason why we revere I Used to Love It is because of the concept. And, it being a concept record. I didn't know back in the day who produced that. I didn't care. I'm just being honest.
No, well, that's the thing about it. Even some of my favorite Common stuff, like like Real Nigga Quotes off One Day It'll All Make Sense.
Hungry.
You know how I feel about Hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mad Max to the super chat.
Lyricist, rhyme wise, you a Rest Haven.
Mad Max to the super chat says, he's this generation's Common. They got the same style. Nas but with more punchlines and their content is the same. Joey has greater personality than Common, though. You know the guy that I thought could have been something different? I don't
agree with any of that.
I was big on Ab-Soul, and I still am big on Ab-Soul.
Well, no. Yeah.
And I don't really know who Ab-Soul could have been in this. He's just kind of like this generation, though the previous generation now, I guess you could say. He's kind of like a one of one of that.
Didn't
He,
he kind of? Didn't he kind of like West Coast Cuddy? Cuddy West.
I couldn't say that. I love the conspiracy theory rhymes. I'm trying to see who to compare that to.
Oh,
I don't
nobody.
know. Like,
I mean,
I
in
mean,
order
he
to
would say
come up with
stuff like,
conspiracy theories, you have to read. You have to read to come up with conspiracy theories.
he would say stuff like, "My president is black. My grandpa glad they passed that gun law. Now niggas still gonna pop up dead." That's the stuff
Yeah,
that he
nobody like that walking around.
said.
Nobody like that walking around.
He
I'm
was my
sorry.
favorite from TDE, man. He was my favorite from the Black Hippies and everything. I knew that Kendrick had all the, skill sets and on the technical level, but as far as like what he was doing, I loved Absol's approach.
I told you, you know how I feel about Q. I was playing Lord Have Mercy today. Preacher told me don't set trip on a Sunday.
Is
Oh,
Absol the Lupe, maybe? Content
possible,
wise?
possible.
I could see that. I
I can
could
see
see,
some of that.
yeah.
He's just not. I mean, see, that's what I'm saying. So
But he's
now
not
let's Lupe
skill
his
wise where Lupe
respect. When you're
is.
talking about Lupe, like lyrically speaking, it's like, well, not really too many guys you can compare him.
It's a little Lupe and Easy E mixture going on, where it's like right in your face, Cube, Lupe ish,
Lupe meets Easy E.
and Ice
Nice
Cube.
pull.
Yeah, something like
That's
that.
a nice pull.
Oh, we got somebody who looks like Eminem in the chat saying Eminem's the greatest rapper of all time.
It's very
I
problematic.
see that. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second too.